Hello and welcome to All Villa No Filler. Please do remember to subscribe to the show as ever. Please follow us on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, and wherever else you get your podcasts. Me and Frankie were thinking it's time for a summer catch up. So we're going to chat transfers, new kits, and preseason. Of course, we're into preseason. The USA tour is underway. But before we get to that, Frankie, how are you?
Yeah, good. Thanks. England just won the Euros.
We certainly have
The the,
Frankie
the
back-to-back
Lionesses.
European champions. A
Yeah,
marvelous thing. Sir Chloe Kelly.
yeah. She's legendary stuff from her, really, isn't it? To
Yeah,
two
yeah.
tournaments in a row, and you could feel it was written with the penalty shootout. You thought, even going into penalties, I thought Spain were the more dominant team by far throughout the game. They were the better
Mm,
team all round, but just weren't clinical at all. Never fancied them really to score beyond the header they got.
yeah.
And England obviously just had to be gutsy like they have been all tournament, really. And they were. And then Hannah Hampton, you could feel it going into penalties. You just thought, I think she's going to pull off a load of saves. She's going to go full Emmy Martinez on this. And she did. Hopefully, she doesn't do anything with the award that is reminiscent of what Emmy Martinez did. But no, absolutely incredible from her. And just legendary stuff from Chloe Kelly and the whole team and Serena Wiegman as well. I mean, God
Oh,
almighty,
phenomenal. Yeah.
what a career
Absolutely
she's having.
phenomenal. Absolutely incredible. Yeah, that bulldog spirit saw us through. Hannah Hampton, of course, former Villa keeper.
Mm.
Yeah, great saves in the shootout. And yeah, I don't know. I said before the show started, Frankie, that they sort of reminded me a bit of Southgate's England in terms of, not the prettiest to watch, but just have enough in them just to see games out and have those magic moments where, we get these last minute winners. And sometimes when that happens, you kind of feel like your name's on the cup a little bit,
Mm.
and so it came to pass. But we're not a Lionesses podcast, not yet anyway. We're all about Aston Villa. We are all Villa no filler, of course. Interesting summer. Interesting because it's not been interesting, I think is fair to
Yeah.
say. There
Yeah.
hasn't been too much going on in the way of transfers. How have you viewed the last few weeks, Frankos?
Uh, it's a very interesting one all around in the Premier League. I think that it feels a little bit reminiscent of when, let's say, like Leicester won the Premier League in 2016, and a lot of the big boys decided, "Do you know what, we're just going to ensure that doesn't happen again and go and spend absolutely loads and loads of money." And then they sort of reasserted themselves in the years after it, and it sort of feels like that's happening a little bit again. A few of those clubs have maybe drifted. A few of them have maybe left it a year too long to, you know, rehabilitate their teams, and so they're all kind of doing it this summer. So the top four are sort of blasting everybody away, whereas it feels like Villa, Newcastle, Spurs, United. Yeah, I know Spurs. I know you Spurs, United, and Newcastle have all bought big on a couple of players, but not to the extent that the top four have. And
No.
Aston Villa, well, it's very similar to Newcastle summer last season, in the sense it's one of it feels like consolidation. Finances do come into it because look, our SCR, we're way over it. We have to get down to 70% wages to revenue. I think last season it was probably somewhere in the 80s. We got a £9.5 million fine from UEFA. We have to prove it to UEFA. We're going to bring that down. That's why I sort of theorized whether all the noises about Martinez going, Ollie Watkins going because they're two of our higher earners. But they looks like they're working a way around it. They've Luca Dean, it looks like he's renegotiating his contract. So
Mm,
hopefully that spreads his wages across a couple of years. Coutinho's out the door. I'd imagine Dendonka might find his way out the door as well. So that's some big wages off the books, hopefully. And then a few others as well. So Mings has renegotiated his contract as well. I think there will still be a couple of signings because, quite frankly, Villa have to get another right centre back
yeah.
unless we're planning on Lamar Bogard being there this season. And in fairness, he did well last night in the preseason game against Frankfurt. But on top of that, we have to get another attacker in somewhere.
Yeah, we do.
We cannot go into the season relying on Buendia and Bailey, I think. So I do think there will be some movement, but it feels a little bit like we're waiting for other teams to come in for us. But the way the transfer window is now, Saudi Arabia have messed it around so much, and quite frankly, teams can't spend on the wages anymore. That it feels like once players get to 29, 30, like say an Ivan Toney last year, the only teams willing to spend that on a player who's past their peak essentially is are the Saudi clubs or a Man United. But even Man United look like they're sort of bringing it down from 29 to 27 years of age in Cunha and Buemo. So yeah, I'm not too worried, but I think if Villa were to go into the season with the current squad they've got, I'd be a little bit like there's a lot of games coming. The squad's not that big, and there's areas where you can see we've just not got enough depth, and it's going to be hard to go on all the way into in the Europa League and in the Premier League competing for the Champions League. So it looks. I still think we need one or two in.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly with all that, Frankie. I think you're absolutely right as well about the top four. I would say, I don't think you'd be particularly a smart betting man to say that Arsenal, Man City, Chelsea, and Liverpool will are very likely to finish in the top four this season in terms of the money they've spent, the quality they've made, and the signings they've made. Just phenomenal, really. Particularly, if Liverpool go and get Isak, not only are they weakening, not necessarily a rival for the title, but potentially a rival for a top four spot by taking their best striker and then going and getting their top target in Ekitike as well. I mean, just
Mm,
incredible stuff from them.
mm.
So yeah, it's weird. It feels a little bit flat. I mean, I've been there's some sort of Newcastle fans will pop up on my feed occasionally, and it feels that they're a little bit sort of concerned about this season. I think particularly if Isak does go, who's going to come in to replace him, and with us. Although they've been a little bit more active in the transfer market than us in terms of bringing in Alanga and that, it does feel that they feel quite weak for a push at the Champions League as well as obviously a
Yeah.
grueling league season.
Mm,
Um, and certainly, as you say, we've had players coming back from loan experiences, the likes of Buendia, but you can't really see them really adding much in terms of the quality that we need if we are going to try and make an attempt to take a spot back in the Champions League.
mm.
It's going to be a challenge. But yeah, it's a waiting game, isn't it? I think, if a club comes in and makes a move for someone like a Watkins or a Martinez, and that will then obviously free up and start the things moving in terms of bringing in replacements and whatnot. But because that's not happened yet, we've had this loan approach from Man United reportedly for Martinez, which was never going to fly with
No,
us.
no, never.
There seems to be growing interest from United and Watkins. Again, he might be just a name on a list. That might come to something, it might not. So yeah, we're just sort of waiting and seeing what's going on. But while as things stand, we just have to get ready for the season with the players that we have, which is what we're doing in pre-season with the game against Frankfurt last night. How did you sort of view that result and
Mm,
and performances? I mean, it's very difficult in pre-season to get to really think too much about anything in terms of the result, but in terms of
mm,
how we were playing, in terms of the personnel, obviously we're now back to more or less full strength with the players that we've got playing now in pre-season.
mm.
How do you think it's kind of going for us?
Yeah, it looked good actually. It just, I mean, look, it's pre-season, so nothing really matters other than just getting fitness, really. And last season in the US, we lost 4-1 to Columbus Crew,
Yeah,
lost
yeah.
badly to Leipzig, lost badly to Club America as well. So, but what it can do is give you some hints as to like which youth players are sort of most in the eye of Unai Emery. Gives you hints of kind of like maybe like shifts in formation of where players might be playing. And so Marlon outright was quite, interesting. He didn't
Hmm.
play as much out there, tended to be a backup striker last season, though I think he will be a backup striker this season and a right winger. But youth player, I thought Bezo, we got to see him for the first time.
Yeah.
Distribution within 10 minutes, I thought, my goodness, my goodness, our backup keeper has not been able to kick a football for
Yeah.
4 years. So
Yeah.
to see him sort of
With
have the
his
confidence
feet
that he
as
had,
well.
yeah,
Yeah, very good with his feet.
really, really good with his feet. And there was one ball he did, a long ball he did to Ollie Watkins as well. I think in that first half, Villa played a little bit more long ball to beat I'm Track Frankfurt's very intense press. It was Frankfurt played like it was a proper game. It was quite surprising
It
just how
was very
intense,
physical, very
very
physical.
very foully, very intense. And but
Mm.
some of the balls that Bezo was picking out long and short, really impressive. So that was really good to see. It means we've got a very strong backup keeper if Emi Martinez stays, and obviously I want him to stay. But then I think youth player wise, I think Lamar Bogard. I did wonder if he'd go this summer, pure profit, all that. But Unai Emery played 90 minutes, played centre back, right back,
Yeah.
and centre CDM. So Unai Emery clearly really rates Bogard. And Bogard's last game that I can remember him featuring for Villa was at Arsenal when he came on and Arna got injured,
Had a good game.
went into CDM. He helped turn the game around from 2
Yeah.
0 down to 2-2. He was excellent. And so clearly Unai Emery really rates the guy, likes his application, his intelligence, and he has to have intelligence to play all them different roles. And I think he's a player that certainly this season, particularly in Europe, you'd like to think will be quite involved. And then on top of that, I think Tristan Rowe did well at right back. He looks a physical, nice player. Probably get a loan this season. And Jimo Alobi, I feel like Villa at the moment, just with our youth team, is one of the best in the world now. It's sort of averaging once every 2 years, one comes through that sort of gets game time in the team. It's been Bogard, Kellyman, before that, Jacob Ramsey. Now, I think Jim Oloba,
Chukwuemeka.
Chukwuemeka, yeah, exactly. So I think Jim Oloba might be the next, just because you saw last night he played up front. I sort of tend to think of him as more of a left winger or somebody who plays a bit more midfield.
Mm,
Up front yesterday, though, there was one run he made right at the end. He only had 20 minutes to impress. One run he made right at the end that nearly led to a goal. It was a good, intelligent run from a guy who's so young. But on top of that, there was a moment he came deep into that sort of Ramsey left midfield role on his half turn, took the
mm.
ball, ran really hard at the Frankfurt defense, sort of caused some panic. Really good, incisive ball, made a good run to try and get on the end of it. So just a couple of little hints from him as well, where you thought, right, he's shown what he can do at youth level. He's clearly one of the best youth players in the country. Can he do it in men's football? And he showed some signs last night that he might be able to do it. So he's certainly a player that I think might do a bit of a Kellyman this season, where if he stays around and doesn't go on loan, we'll see him play in Europe and sometimes in the Premier League as well. So exciting stuff from them. And yeah, a really good workout for Villa, because Frankfurt were very, very, they pressed very hard. And that's, to be honest, it's good to face that now and get mistakes out the way and get used to the press again.
I think if you had to focus on one area to strengthen based on what you've seen in preseason, where would you look to?
Um, there's, I think there's two prime areas. One is the right centre back. We need competition for Konsa. I really, really think we need competition for Konsa now. It's been a long time since we did that, but I also think the attacking areas, it just looks very, very light.
Mm.
I think Bailey and Buendia,
Do you think Buendia has a part to play?
he has a part to play. He's still an Aston Villa player. I sort of think his race is run.
Mm.
I just think he's had his chance now. He's been here, what, 3, 4 years? And it's just not quite happened really at any point
No, I mean
consistently.
yeah, yeah. I mean that injury obviously in preseason a couple of seasons ago
Yeah,
that really sort of put a nail in his career at Villa and obviously went on loan to Bayer Leverkusen at the tail end of last season, didn't really pull up too many trees out there.
yeah.
So yeah, I think you would expect him to go, but then again, if there's no interest in him from other clubs, then he's as you say, he's a Villa player and he'll stick
Because
around.
he
But
certainly has qualities. I mean, that's the
mm,
thing. Like, we've all seen it before. He's got those qualities. It's just the sort of the level of impact he has and the consistency he has.
yeah,
And then with Bailey, you just don't know what you get. It's a coin flip with Bailey, and that's the problem. Again, it's 4 years, 3 seasons which haven't been that great. Last season was terrible,
mm,
but his third season was one of the best players in world football in attacking wise. So it's just difficult to go into it and rely on a player who's been like that. But
mm,
if he can find, if he stays with Villa, and if he can find at all any of the form that he had in his third season, which helped propel us into the Champions League, well,
mm.
then what a player Villa have. But it's just we all know it. We all know what we get. We all know we don't know we're going to get from Bailey. I think that's what we know. As Sting used to say in WCW wrestling, the only thing that's certain is that nothing is certain. So,
Very good.
yeah,
Wise words from Sting.
yeah,
Wise words from
there you
Sting.
go.
Yeah. What else? Of course, we've had the new kit unveiling the home shirt, Frankie. It's
Mm,
got lovely detailing on the
it does,
sleeves, I
yeah.
think, reminiscent of what you see on the Holt, isn't it?
Mm.
Very nice. Are you going to be going down the Villa store and buying yourself a lovely new shirt?
Very tempted to. I got one last season, so I tend to do it on a sort of. I do it very, very rarely. I like to buy the training kit and
Yeah, it's
all
very
that sort of
nice.
stuff.
Yeah.
I've seen a few leaked images of potential sort of
Third kits.
the third kits and also some training gear
Oh
that's quite
yeah, yeah, yeah. I've
specialist.
seen some of that as well. Yeah,
Um,
looks all right.
and it looked pretty cool. Yeah,
Looks
so
all
I think
right.
that might be what I save up for this year.
Mm,
Um, and yeah, because I think the kit this year it's not quite different enough for me to get another one that's
yeah.
from last year. But yeah, if I were to get one, I think probably one of those sort of cool Adidas um training kits that sort of look a little bit vintage. I think that's it. I think that's the thing with Adidas. The tie-up with them is that they have a lot of, they have a big range, and I think that as the partnership develops with Aston Villa, hopefully they get a little bit more adventurous. Hopefully there's a bit more of a lean into vintage sort of style as well, which it looks like they're going to do with this leaked training kit if it's real. But in
Mm,
the coming years, I'd like to see a little bit more like adventure and a little bit more, you know, uh, that sort of vintage cool effect. I mean, you remember that sort of away kit in the mid 90s, the green, red, and black
Oh,
one,
of
the sort of
course.
the
Yeah,
Muller,
that's right. Yeah, yeah,
something a little
yeah.
bit like
Little
that,
nod to that.
or that sort of.
Yeah, I
Do
know
you remember
you.
that blue away kit we had? It was a little bit controversial, but I liked it in the mid like 95. Dwight Yorke
The
with his
AST
collar up.
computers one. Yeah, I
Yeah.
actually I loved that shirt. I
And it
absolutely loved that shirt. Yeah.
it was sort of Scotland colours. We could do
Yeah.
like a celebration of our Scottish heritage, with our
Absolutely. Yeah.
founders, George
Yeah.
Ramsay, and
Yeah.
also like Free the Lion, so a golden lion on it. John McGinn in
Yeah.
that. John McGinn would just like he'd come out paint his face would just automatically he'd like wash his face and look in the mirror and it'd just be blue and white like the Scott like William Wallace himself, and he'd go out and he'd you may take our lives, but you'll never take our fourth place, our top four, our Champions League position. So yeah,
You know the film The Santa Claus when who's
yeah,
the actor where like
Tim Allen.
yeah, Tim Allen just sort of evolved into Santa Claus. It's
Yeah.
basically John McGinn will put on that this beautiful blue Aston Villa shirt with the lion freed and just turn into William Wallace.
Yeah, plays in a kilt.
Basically, yeah.
We're all covering our eyes when he goes for a sliding tackle. What
Oh
are we about to
God.
see? What are we
Oh
about to
dear.
see?
What were you going to witness?
Yeah,
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. I think I do like the new kit. I think it's lovely. As you say, it is very similar to last year's kit, which was equally nice.
mm.
But yeah, I think we're seeing it quite a lot in kits. I think across the Premier League, across football, really, where there doesn't seem to be that much in the way of sort of like thinking outside the box.
Yeah.
I guess there's just a risk that if it's panned and sales will be affected massively. But I think it'd be nice just something a little bit different from what we've seen over the past few seasons.
Mm.
Bring back the stripes, maybe.
Yeah,
Bring back the
I,
stripes.
I did wonder that, that those that very early 90s, the first kit I remember was that 92 one, which I think was stripes, and I think was
That's
like a
right. Yeah.
1930s style collar.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Something
Yeah.
kind of maybe not the collar, I don't know whether that would work on modern shirts, but kind of like a yeah, the stripes I think would be quite cool. I think if we had something like that, I feel like we haven't had that for
Long time. Long
yeah,
time. Long
years and
time.
years and years. It'd be just very different.
Yeah, just something a bit different because we've had, the kind of like, the claret front and the blue sleeves. We've had that for a long time. So just something a bit different
Yeah.
would be very nice. So there we are. Let's wrap things up there. It's just, as I said, a very quick summer catch up just to see how you're getting on, Frankie, mainly in
Mm.
yourself. Glad to see you looking so well,
Yeah,
taking care of yourself.
just about, yeah. If I'm always willing to talk to anybody, if,
Yeah.
pick up the
Yeah.
phone.
Yeah. Just checking in on Frankie, really, rather than a
That's it.
podcast about Villa. That's all I'm doing.
Make sure I haven't gone insane by talking to myself about Villa 24/7.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there we are. We'll do another podcast again closer to the season because we're probably entering pre-season prediction mode
Getting very
soon,
close.
Frankie, which I'm getting very excited. I always like to think about our mad predictions as the year goes on, what we think is going to happen. But yeah, we'll leave things there for now. You have been listening to All Villa No Filler, and we will catch you soon.
Catching a bit up the mighty Villa.
Up the Villa.